Part 2. Claire drove down the deserted road as the grey sky warned of an impending storm. The Langston estate had disappeared from her rearview mirror hours ago, but the weight of her escape still pressed heavily on her chest. Though she had finally broken free from Adam's manipulations, she knew his reach had no bounds. The small town of Maple Hollow seemed like the perfect hiding spot, remote, quiet, and forgotten by the world. It was a place where Claire could start fresh with her child, far from the shadows of the Langston family. She rented a modest house on the outskirts, surrounded by trees and silence. It was the opposite of the luxury she'd known in recent months, but exactly what she needed. 3 months later, Claire had built a simple routine. Working part-time at a local bookstore, she was slowly saving enough to prepare for her baby's arrival. But even as she smiled at customers and organized books, the nagging feeling of being watched never quite left her. One rainy afternoon, as she was packing an order, her fragile peace was shattered. A customer left an envelope on the counter. Claire glanced up, but the stranger had already slipped out the door. On the envelope, written in careful lettering, were the words, "They know where you are." Inside was a single sheet of paper, a photograph of Claire leaving the bookstore the day before. The sense of security Claire had built crumbled in seconds. Trembling, she slipped the envelope into her bag and decided to leave work early. At home, she locked every door and window, her mind racing back to Adam. Was this his doing, or was it something even more dangerous? That night, sleep eluded Claire, but at midnight her phone buzzed. The caller ID displayed an unknown number. "Claire," a woman's voice said on the other end, "you need to get out of there." "Who is this?" Claire asked, panic rising in her chest. "My name is Evelyn," the voice replied, "and I'm trying to save you." 2 days later, Claire met Evelyn at a coffee shop in the next town over. Seeing Evelyn in person was surreal, like a ghost made flesh. The woman looked exhausted, but her resolve was unmistakable. "Adam didn't send anyone after you," Evelyn began, taking a sip of coffee. "But he's lost control of what he created, and that puts you in danger." Claire frowned. "What do you mean?" "Adam's network, the empire he built, depends on alliances with dangerous people. People who don't care about him, or you. They only care about the power he represents." Evelyn explained that after she escaped, parts of Adam's network began to unravel. Former allies were acting on their own, seizing the opportunity to overthrow him. Claire and her unborn child were now pawns in a game to weaken Adam and consolidate other factions' power. "They know who you are," Evelyn concluded, "and they won't stop until they find you." Despite her fear, Claire refused to fold. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, meeting Evelyn's gaze. "Because I was you once," Evelyn said, her voice heavy with regret. "I lost everything trying to escape. You still have a chance." Claire's initial reluctance to trust Evelyn began to fade. With Evelyn's guidance, she took precautions, changing her phone, adopting a new name, and preparing to move again if necessary. But as Claire and Evelyn worked together, Adam was making his own moves. In his mansion, he read reports in silence, his expression grim. He knew his empire was crumbling. The allies who once followed his lead now saw his vulnerability as an opportunity. Victor, his trusted confidant, entered the room. "We've located Claire," he said, "but there's another problem. Harper is making moves." Adam's gaze darkened, his icy eyes unreadable. Harper was one of the oldest and most dangerous allies in his network. He knew too much and harbored ambitions to take over. "Leave Claire out of this," Adam said, his voice low but resolute. "She's not part of the game." "With all due respect," Victor replied, "she absolutely is. She's carrying your child." Adam was silent for a moment before standing, his movements smooth but tense. "You'll handle it." Meanwhile, Claire began to notice subtle changes in Evelyn. Though the woman was helping her, there was something in her eyes, a shadow of guilt or hesitation that Claire couldn't ignore. One night, while Evelyn was in the bathroom, Claire found a folder in her bag. Inside were detailed documents about Adam's network, including the names of his allies and enemies. One name stood out: Harper. "Who's Harper?" Claire demanded that night, confronting Evelyn. Evelyn sighed. "He was Adam's right hand. Ambitious, ruthless, always lurking in the shadows. When I fled, he was the first to suggest I be eliminated." "And now?" Claire pressed. "Now, he wants to use you to destroy Adam," Evelyn said grimly, "and he'll stop at nothing." As Harper tightened the noose, Adam did the one thing Claire least expected. He showed up. One night, As she returned home, she found him waiting by her door. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I told you I never wanted to see you again, and I respected that," Adam replied. "But this isn't about us anymore, Claire. It's about our child. He's in danger." Claire didn't know if she could trust him, but there was something different about Adam now. He seemed human. There was worry in his eyes, and his tone carried no command, only urgency. "Tell me what's going on," she demanded. Adam hesitated before speaking. "Harper is coming for you, not to destroy me, but to take what's mine. You, Claire, and our child." Claire stared at Adam, her mind spinning with doubts and conflicting emotions. He stood there, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen before, but the scars he had left on her ran too deep to ignore. "Why should I believe you?" she asked, crossing her arms. "You've lied about everything. How do I know this isn't just another manipulation?" Adam took a deep breath, his shoulders taut. "You have every reason not to trust me," he admitted, his honesty catching her off guard. "But Harper won't stop. He doesn't play by the same rules I do. He doesn't have rules." "And why does he care about my child?" Claire demanded, her voice tinged with indignation. "Why is this so important to him?" Adam hesitated, his gaze dropping for a brief moment. "Because he knows our child is my weakness, and Harper will exploit anything he can to destroy me." Claire stepped back, the weight of his words forcing her to sit on the edge of the couch. She hated to admit it, but there was a rawness in Adam's voice that unsettled her. Still, could she trust him? Trusting Adam meant risking the freedom she had fought so hard to gain. The silence between them grew heavy until Evelyn appeared in the doorway, her expression hardening at the sight of Adam. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her tone laced with disdain. "Haven't you done enough damage?" "I'm here to protect Claire," Adam replied, his calm unwavering. "You should be doing the same." Evelyn let out a bitter laugh. "Protect? You don't even know what that means. Everything you touch turns to dust, Adam." "And yet here you are," he shot back, a touch of irony in his voice. Before the argument could escalate, Claire raised her hand, commanding silence. "Enough. This isn't about the two of you. It's about my child and what we need to do to keep him safe." The tension remained thick, but the air crackled with reluctant understanding. Like it or not, Adam, Evelyn, and Claire would have to work together. Evelyn grudgingly allowed Adam to stay temporarily, though she kept a watchful eye on him at all times. That night, as Adam began laying out a plan to deal with Harper, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that Evelyn was still hiding something. The way she avoided direct eye contact with Adam when he spoke left Claire suspicious. Finally, as Adam stepped out to take a call, Claire confronted Evelyn. "What aren't you telling me?" she asked directly. Evelyn sighed, her face heavy with years of unspoken guilt. "Harper isn't just after you because of your child," she began. "He wants everything Adam has, and that includes the legacy your child represents." "What does that mean?" Claire asked, confusion tightening her chest. "Adam built an empire," Evelyn explained, "but the real power of the Langston name lies in its invisible assets. Alliances, financial secrets, political influence. Harper wants that, and he knows that if he controls you and the baby, he controls Adam." As Evelyn spoke, Adam walked back into the room, his gaze locking on the two women. "She's right," he admitted before Claire could even ask. "But this isn't just about power. Harper is obsessed. He thinks he can become me, but all he'll ever be is a shadow." "And you think that excuses everything you've done?" Claire said, her voice sharp with anger. "No," Adam replied firmly, "but I'm here now, trying to make it right." In the days that followed, an uneasy alliance formed between the three of them. Adam shared more about the intricate web of favors, threats that had made him untouchable for so long. Now, with Harper challenging his authority, that entire network was at risk. While Adam worked to uncover Harper's movements, Claire began to notice a subtle change in him. He was more present, more human, as if the prospect of losing everything had forced him to confront his own failings. But she refused to let her guard down. The first concrete threat arrived on a sunny afternoon. Claire was at the local market when she noticed a man watching her from a distance. He was dressed casually, but his intense gaze and the way he whispered into his phone set off alarms. Masking her panic, Claire quickly returned home and relayed what she'd seen to Adam and Evelyn. Adam immediately identified the man from Claire's description. "He's one of Harper's men," Adam said, his expression darkening. "They're closing in." "Then we need to leave," Claire said, struggling to keep the fear from her voice. "Now." Adam shook his head. If we run, Harper will hunt us down. We need to face him. Can't you just buy him off? Evelyn suggested sarcastically. It doesn't work that way with Harper, Adam replied. He doesn't want money. He wants to destroy everything I've built. As they prepared their next moves, Evelyn revealed another layer of Adam's past that left Claire reeling. Harper wasn't just an ambitious ally. He was the one person who knew how Adam had bent the law to construct his empire. If Harper exposed those secrets, it wouldn't just bring Adam down. It would collapse the entire network, taking Claire and her baby down with it. So this isn't just about revenge, Claire said, the weight of the situation pressing on her. If Harper wins, we all lose. Adam met her gaze with a solemn nod. That's why we need to act fast. The house was steeped in tense silence as Claire watched Adam from the corner of the living room. He stood near the window, his broad shoulders framed against the dim light of the setting sun. His fingers moved over his phone, drafting messages, making calls, always planning. Claire hated how effortlessly he reclaimed control of the space, as though the months apart had been nothing but a fleeting inconvenience to him. Evelyn sat nearby, her arms crossed. Though she had reluctantly agreed to Adam's strategy of confronting Harper, her skepticism was evident. For all her warnings about Harper's ruthlessness, it seemed Evelyn trusted Adam even less. Claire was caught in the middle. She loathed Adam for the lies and manipulations that had defined their marriage, but the threat Harper posed left her no choice but to rely on him. Still, the prospect of sitting idly while Adam arranged a meeting with a man who could destroy them all was unbearable. The plan was simple on paper. Adam would meet Harper in a neutral location, accompanied by Claire to ensure that Harper didn't make any bold moves. Evelyn, in the background, would monitor the situation and act as a failsafe if anything went wrong. Claire was reluctant to be part of Adam's chess game, but he insisted. Harper won't take me seriously unless you're there, he had said. You and the baby are his leverage. If he sees you with me, it shows strength. Strength, Claire had scoffed, or a blatant display of how he can hurt us. But Adam's mind was made up, and despite her anger, Claire couldn't ignore the nagging sense that Adam was right. Harper's fixation on their child wasn't just about revenge. There was something deeper, something neither Adam nor Evelyn was fully revealing. The day of the meeting arrived with an ominous air. The location Adam had chosen was a secluded estate, owned by one of his remaining allies. As they drove through winding roads surrounded by dense forest, Claire felt her anxiety mount. Evelyn was in the back seat, uncharacteristically quiet, while Adam drove in silence, his face an impenetrable mask. The estate loomed ahead, its grand architecture standing in stark contrast to the tension simmering within the car. As they pulled into the driveway, Claire's breath caught. 2 black SUVs were already parked outside, their tinted windows hiding whatever or whoever was inside. Harper's already here, Adam said calmly, stepping out of the car. Evelyn placed a hand on Claire's arm before she could follow. Stay sharp, she whispered. Adam's good at making you think he's in control, but Harper's better at turning the tables. Claire nodded, the weight of Evelyn's words settling heavily on her as they walked toward the estate's entrance. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Harper was already seated in the center of the room, a smug grin on his face. He was tall, with sharp features, and an aura of effortless authority that made Claire's skin crawl. Beside him stood 2 men in dark suits, their expressions cold and unyielding. Adam, Harper said, his voice smooth as silk. I was beginning to think you wouldn't show. I don't make appointments I can't keep, Adam replied, his tone equally measured. Let's get to the point. You've been meddling in my affairs for too long. It stops now. Harper chuckled, leaning back in his chair. Meddling? That's a strong word for cleaning up the mess you've left behind. Adam's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he gestured toward Claire, who stood a few steps behind him. You've made your intentions clear, Harper. You think controlling her and our child will give you power over me, but I'm here to remind you that it won't. Claire bristled at being used as a pawn in their power struggle, but she remained silent. Harper's gaze shifted to her, his eyes scanning her with an unsettling intensity. You must be Claire, Harper said, his tone dripping with false charm. I've heard so much about you. Claire didn't respond, her glare unwavering. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. Harper smirked, turning his attention back to Adam. She's feisty. I can see why you like her. Enough, Adam snapped. You've crossed a line, Harper. This ends here. And if I disagree? Harper asked, his voice laced with mockery. Adam took a step forward, his presence dominating the room. Then you'll find out what happens when someone tries to take what's mine. The confrontation escalated quickly. Harper revealed that he had been gathering evidence against Adam for years, documents that could dismantle his empire and expose his dealings to the world. He claimed to have allies within Adam's network, people who were tired of his control and eager to see him fall. And what do you plan to do with all this power you think you'll have? Adam asked, his voice calm but lethal. Build something better, Harper replied. Something without your arrogance and hypocrisy. Claire's heart raced as she watched the exchange. For the first time, she saw the cracks in Adam's facade. Harper wasn't just an enemy. He was a man who understood Adam's weaknesses and wasn't afraid to exploit them. But then Harper made a mistake. You'll step down, he said, leaning forward, or I'll make sure Claire and that child of yours pay the price. The room fell into a chilling silence. Adam's expression darkened, and Claire felt a cold shiver run down her spine. You can come after me, Adam said, his voice low and dangerous. But if you threaten them again, there won't be a place in this world where you'll be safe. What followed was chaos. Harper's men moved, but so did Adam's. Shots were fired, and Claire was pulled out of the room by Evelyn before she could fully process what was happening. Outside, the estate erupted into a full-scale confrontation as Adam's and Harper's forces clashed. Claire and Evelyn hid in a nearby room, the sounds of gunfire and shouting echoing through the halls. Evelyn was calm, her instincts sharp, as though she had been in situations like this before. "Why are you so composed?" Claire demanded, her voice trembling. "Because this is Adam's world," Evelyn replied, "and if you want to survive in it, you learn to adapt." When the chaos finally subsided, Adam found them. His face was bruised, his shirt stained with blood, but his eyes burned with determination. "Harper's gone," he said, his voice tight. "For now." Claire didn't know whether to feel relief or dread. Harper might have retreated, but it was clear that the danger was far from over. And despite Adam's apparent victory, the cracks in his empire and his relationship with Claire were widening. As they drove away from the estate, Claire turned to Adam. "This doesn't end, does it?" Adam didn't answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with resignation. "No, but I'll do whatever it takes to protect you and our child." Claire stared out the window, her thoughts swirling. Adam might be willing to protect them, but at what cost? And how long could she continue to live in a world where every move was a gamble? The storm had only just begun. The drive back to the safe house was cloaked in silence, interrupted only by the hum of the car engine. Claire sat in the passenger seat, her hand instinctively resting on her growing belly. She cast a glance at Adam, whose hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles pale. In the back seat, Evelyn gazed out the window, her face expressionless, but her eyes betraying a quiet calculation. They had survived the confrontation with Harper, but Claire knew it was far from over. Adam's world didn't allow for clean victories, and Harper was the kind of man who would return with twice the force. The safe house was a modest cabin nestled deep in the woods, far from prying eyes. Evelyn had secured it through her network, an echo of the life she had once shared with Adam. The isolation was meant to keep them safe, but for Claire it felt suffocating. Inside, the three of them settled into a tense rhythm. Adam spent his days on the phone or working on his laptop, coordinating his next move. Evelyn alternated between helping him strategize and keeping Claire company, though Claire sensed an undercurrent of friction between the two. One evening, as Adam stepped outside to take a call, Claire finally addressed the tension. "What aren't you telling me?" she asked Evelyn. Evelyn hesitated, then sighed. "Adam and Harper aren't just rivals. They were partners once." Claire's stomach twisted. "Partners? What do you mean?" "Before Adam built his empire, he and Harper worked together," Evelyn explained. "They were unstoppable, until Adam outmaneuvered him and took everything. Harper's obsession with Adam isn't just about power. It's personal." "Why didn't Adam tell me this?" Claire asked, her voice trembling. "Because that's who Adam is," Evelyn said bitterly. "He buries the truth until it suits him." Later that night, Claire confronted Adam. She found him sitting in the dimly lit living room, his laptop glowing faintly in the dark. "Why didn't you tell me you and Harper were partners?" she demanded. Adam didn't flinch. He closed his laptop and met her gaze. "Because it doesn't matter." "It matters to me," Claire shot back. How can I trust you if you keep hiding things? Adam leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. Harper and I built something together, but he was reckless, and I couldn't let him drag me down. So, I cut him out. He's been trying to tear me apart ever since. Claire crossed her arms. And what about us? Are you going to cut me out when I'm no longer convenient? His expression softened, and for a moment, Claire thought she saw the man he could have been. You're not Harper, Claire. You're different. She wanted to believe him, but the walls he had built around himself were impenetrable. As the days passed, the pressure mounted. Harper's absence felt like the calm before a storm, and Claire knew he was plotting his next move. Meanwhile, Adam's network began to fracture. Allies he had relied on for years were now siding with Harper or distancing themselves entirely. Evelyn grew restless. One night, as she and Claire sat by the fire, she revealed her plan. Harper won't stop until Adam is gone, she said, but Adam's pride won't let him step aside. If we want to end this, we have to take matters into our own hands. Claire frowned. What are you suggesting? We cut a deal with Harper, Evelyn said, her voice steady. We offer him Adam's empire in exchange for your safety and the safety of your child. Claire's breath caught. You're asking me to betray him? I'm asking you to protect yourself, Evelyn replied. Adam can take care of himself, but you need to think about what's best for your child. The decision weighed heavily on Claire. Betraying Adam felt like crossing a line she couldn't uncross, but Evelyn's words echoed in her mind. Adam's world was dangerous, and staying in it meant exposing her child to a life of constant threat. The opportunity came sooner than she expected. Harper reached out through an intermediary, offering a meeting. Claire didn't tell Adam. She couldn't. The rendezvous was arranged at a remote location, a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Evelyn accompanied Claire, her presence a cold comfort. As they approached the building, Claire's heart pounded. She knew this was a gamble, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Inside, Harper waited, his sharp features illuminated by a single hanging bulb. He smiled as they entered, a predator who knew his prey was cornered. Claire, he greeted, his tone dripping with false warmth. I'm glad you came. Claire forced herself to stay calm. I want to make a deal. Harper's smile widened. I'm listening. She laid out the terms. Adam's empire in exchange for her and her child's safety. Harper seemed intrigued, but before he could respond, a familiar voice echoed through the warehouse. So this is how you repay me. Claire froze as Adam stepped out of the shadows, his expression a mix of fury and betrayal. Evelyn cursed under her breath, reaching for Claire's arm, but it was too late. Adam's men flooded the warehouse, their guns trained on Harper and his guards. The air crackled with tension as Adam approached Claire, his gaze fixed on her. You think I didn't know? He asked, his voice low. You think I wouldn't find out? Claire's chest tightened. I did what I had to. For our child. Adam's jaw clenched, but before he could respond, Harper laughed. Touching, Harper said, stepping forward. But this is far from over. In a flash, chaos erupted. Gunfire echoed through the warehouse as Harper's men fought back. Evelyn pulled Claire behind cover, shielding her as bullets flew. Claire's world narrowed to the sound of her heartbeat and the desperate need to protect her unborn child. When the dust settled, Harper was gone, but the damage was done. Adam's men had taken heavy losses, and the cracks in his empire widened. As they returned to the safe house, Claire braced herself for the confrontation she knew was coming. Adam cornered her in the living room, his face etched with anger. You betrayed me. I did what I thought was right, Claire said, her voice trembling but resolute. I can't keep living like this, Adam. I can't raise our child in your world. Adam's anger faltered, replaced by something softer, regret, perhaps, or resignation. Then what do you want, Claire? Freedom, safety, tell me. I want a life where I don't have to look over my shoulder, she said. I want a life where my child can be safe. Adam nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling over him. I'll make it happen, he said, but it means walking away from everything I've built. Can you do that? Claire asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Adam didn't answer, but in his silence, Claire saw the truth. He would try, for her, for their child.